Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is non-Messianic conversations. Uh, the 16th of December, 2025. Okay, and our topic inside the class is we'll be dealing with was Sarah Abraham's wife or sister. We're gonna go in on that. We kind of talked it. We had this conversation before, but we're gonna go in a little deeper. Some more information was uncovered, and we're gonna listen to it, and we're gonna bump it up against what we already know, and then we'll break it down. Okay, you can go to non-Messianic channel, which is there. We here every Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Um, Affiliated with Prophets of Awakening. Okay, and for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh of the Torah, Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer and our Deliverer, the Lord of Hosts. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity and understanding who their Savior and their Redeemer truly is. Shalom and welcome to this channel. Welcome to our non-Messianic conversation. Okay, we're gonna do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer, Psalms. We have some current events, some need to know information. We open it up for any Q&A or any comments, dialogue. And then our topic for discussion is uh, the new plan, global plan that Trump has for global dominance. We're gonna listen to that, and then we're gonna get some feedback from it. And then our scripture reading will be, like I said earlier, we'll be dealing with Sarah, Abraham's wife and sister. Okay, we're gonna go into that. Then we'll pick a scripture like we normally do, and break the scripture down, and then we'll close out. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongeth unto thee. Therefore we come before thee at this hour, seeking thy face and looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as thy servants David and Solomon, Samuel, and Hezekiah did. For we desire to walk after thee, O Lord, keep your commandments and your testimony and your statutes with all our heart and soul, and to perform the words of the covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow thy face to shine upon thy people. Hear our plea, hear and do, O Lord, and hide not thy face from us any longer, for we're in the last days and we need you. Peace be unto you. Okay. With that, I'll read a song very quick. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna read Psalms. Let me see what I want to do. Okay, I'll read Psalms 113. It's God's mercies are many. Praise ye the Lord. Praise ye, O ye servants of the Lord. Praise the name of the Lord. Blessed be the name of the Lord from this time forth and forevermore. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. The Lord is high above all nations, and his glory above the heavens. Who is likened unto the Lord our God, who dwelleth on high, who humbleth himself to behold the things that are in heaven and in the earth. He raises up the poor out of the dust, and lifteth up the needy out of the dunghill, that he may set him with princes, even with the princes of his people. He maketh the barren woman to keep house, and to be joyful, a joyful mother of children. Praise ye the Lord. So that was Psalms 113. God's mercies are many, right? And some of those mercies are, like I say, he said in in verse 8, he says that he may set him with princes, even we'll go to 7. He raises up the poor out of the dust and lifted the needy out of the dunghill, that he may set him with princes, even with the princes of his people. So Joseph was a prime example of that. And then the other one was, he maketh the barren woman to keep house and to be a joyful mother of children. Praise ye, Lord. And so Sarah was an example of that. And we got other women in there where he had their womb closed up, then he opened the womb up, and they brought forth children. So, okay. With that being said, there any feedback on that? Everybody good? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So with that being said, we'll go to our current events. Okay. I thought this was pretty big.
Something massive is shifting right now underneath the surface of the global monetary system, and it all has to do with gold.
Now, one asset that's getting a big lift from all the global political disruption is gold.
Gold is going to be really quite critical in everything that is happening at central bank reserve shifts.
As you see central banks around the world, as you see individual investors around the world go, you know what? I now view gold as a safe harbor asset in a way that the dollar used to be viewed. That's what's really concerning to me.
There's no doubt about it. Gold has been getting a ton of attention. It's up 60% this year, which is impressive on its own, but nothing when compared to where it's going next and why. Central banks have been the primary buyers of physical gold, but not because they're diversifying, because they are positioning for a new monetary system, one where real tangible wealth is at the center instead of fiat currencies and paper promises. And while this is great news for anyone holding gold, or for those of us who think this shift is long overdue, it does come at a cost. Dollars, bonds, retirement accounts, savings are all going to be significantly devalued at a rapid pace. Anyone who stays in the current system risks losing everything. But if you understand the changes that are happening right now, the reset that is underway, there is still time to prepare and position yourself to protect your wealth before it's too late. For thousands of years, gold has been the foundation of the monetary system. Nations settled trade in it. Currencies were backed by it. Everyday people used gold not only for transactions, but to store wealth. Because gold isn't just a currency, gold is money. Most people today don't realize that we're not using money at all. We are using currencies. Currencies and money are not the same thing, contrary to what they'd have us believe. Currency is a medium of exchange, a unit of account. It is portable, durable, divisible, and fungible, which means that each unit is the same as another unit. But money must have one more quality that currency does not: a true store of value. See, currency can be created indefinitely. Gold cannot. That single difference explains the entire system we have today. Once you understand that key distinction, suddenly everything else starts to make a lot more sense. Like the fact that we don't actually need to have inflation. Inflation isn't some accidental thing that happens. It is intentional. When you have savers in a fiat currency, and then you have those creating more units of existing currency, therefore creating inflation, your wealth isn't just disappearing because it has to. Your wealth is being transferred to those who are issuing the currency, from the masses to the few who benefit. But gold protects wealth and serves those who hold it, because you cannot print endless units of it. But this is a problem for the government, who we both know loves to spend, and gold forces discipline. How else are you going to fund endless wars or line your pockets with profits, right? If gold is standing in the way, it had to go, both for the American people, where they wouldn't be able to confiscate wealth, and as well for the government itself. Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan said, in the absence of the gold standard, there is no way to protect savings from confiscation through inflation. There is no safe store of value. If there were, the government would make its holding illegal, as was done in the case of gold. The system that left us with is continually taking our wealth from all of us. It is legalized theft. Now, some might feel it more than others, those who are retired, those who are on fixed incomes, right? Whereas some might be trying to outrun it to varying degrees of success. But no matter how much prosperity you have created for yourself, the bottom line is this is going to always be worth less than it is today. Murray Rothbard famously said that every fiat experiment ultimately ends in a machine for the hidden confiscation of wealth. What does he mean by that? He means that wealth doesn't disappear, right? It merely changes hands. As they continue to print more units of currency, each existing one is devalued, is worth less. They have tricked us to believe that currency is money, that inflation is growth, and that debt is wealth on the paper promises of the past. Now, this is not a new shift or a new concept. If you've studied currency resets throughout history, you know that every time a reset occurs and a currency is worth less and less, eventually devalued and revalued until it's basically worthless, that is when gold once again becomes the anchor of the system, because trust has been so broken. Again, the one thing backing this is confidence and trust. Once that disappears and you're left with nothing, you have to find something real, something tangible, something that you can trust. And that is where gold comes in. The difference today is that that trust and confidence isn't just bound to one nation or one currency. The dollar is the global reserve currency, meaning that all nations are exposed to the dollar. And historically, while many thought, okay, well, that's guaranteed mutual destruction, meaning that no one will ever get rid of the dollar because it would only hurt them, these nations are fed up and they are finding a new way. New technology, new partnerships are allowing these nations to come together and say, we are going to build a new monetary system, one with gold at the center. It's not retail that's driving gold's price up. It is central bank institutional level buying. In fact, October, the most recent data we have, was the largest month on record for 2025 of central bank gold buying purchases. They're not slowing down. They're buying it like it's cheap. Because it is. Because again, remember, you can't just go out and fire up the printing press. You can't push a button on a machine and create more units of gold. Gold is finite. Gold is a true store of value, meaning that if we assume that the monetary system is going to continue to anchor itself to gold, which we know it is, then how high do you really think gold's price is going to go? The dollar is going to continue to lose its value. Gold is going to continue to rise in price. This is why when I say gold is severely undervalued, it's because if you understand the shifts that are happening on the global stage, you know that gold's price is only going to shoot up. It's what we've seen time and time again throughout history and currency.
Okay. You got anything on that? What you think?
Shalom, brother Leonard. Well, I'm trying to think of when she said a current currency, basically, right? She said currency you can create it indefinitely, So
Right.
to me, that's saying that it can be manipulated, that you can manipulate it, right?
Ponzi
Right.
scheme.
Exactly. That was the thing that stuck out. But then when she was talking about the gold, at the end, brother Leonard, one thing I remember that was said when Elon said, we're not gonna own nothing but be happy.
Right.
And I'm looking at the shift of them talking about, going back to gold or whatever, but I'm not hearing any way for the people to be able to get gold.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Right. That's
like
the
for
setup.
the everyday man. Right.
The elite and the bankers and all them, they hoarding all of it because they know what's getting ready to happen. But the regular everyday person, they're gonna be stuck out.
Right. Exactly.
If they they have you got people that's aware. They hoarding gold just like the banks are. So, but it's that person that's not aware, they're the ones gonna be stuck out. Ain't that something?
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
here we go.
If in order to be good friends, you need to go through the process of fighting. Yeah, sometimes you need to tell each other.
For the people that people that don't know, it looks as if Nigeria and Burkina Faso getting ready to have some kind of conflict.
Things properly so you can start respecting each other. Sometimes in life, you need to tell people to speak to you appropriately so they can actually learn how to treat you with respect. Yeah, I don't think respect always comes naturally. I think respect sometimes has to be forced. Will Nigeria become a big problem in West Africa? Will Nigeria become a big problem in West Africa and then to Africa? A Nigerian senator has just suggested, with regard to the airplane that's been stopped in Burkina Faso, remember, a couple of days ago, that the Nigerian government should consider military action against Burkina Faso. So he's basically saying our airplane that's been stopped in Burkina Faso for traveling without an authorization, a Urcal 190C that's been grounded by the Burkina Faso government, should be freed immediately, or else Nigeria should consider a possibility of military action. So that means Nigeria should engage military personnel and go and create havoc or fight Burkina Faso militarily so they can get the airplane back and the soldiers back. Now, this is very interesting because he even mentioned raid on Entebbe. You've heard of that? Raid on Entebbe. Entebbe is a city in Uganda. The raid on Entebbe happened in 1976, where basically an airplane flying from Israel to Paris, I think it was Air France airplane, was hijacked by Palestinians and German Palestinians. The airplane, I think, had about 200 people on board, and it was diverted from their initial itinerary all the way back to Uganda. You can see on the map, this is Israel and this is France. It was supposed to go from Israel to France. It was diverted from Israel all the way to Uganda. And you remember back in time, President of Uganda, Idi Amin Dada, at the time, wasn't a very good friend of the Israelis. And the airplane went to Uganda, was grounded with many military. What Israel did at the time was they sent commandos. Yeah, they sent commandos. I think about 200 soldiers flew with 4 airplanes. They went to Uganda, at Entebbe airport. They executed very swiftly, killing about 45 Ugandan soldiers and taking all hostages back in the airplane and destroyed the Uganda Air Force to avoid being chased in the air. They destroyed the airplane of Uganda Air Force, jumped in the airplane and flew back. But during that mission that was led by Yoni Netanyahu, Yoni Netanyahu was the brother of Benjamin Netanyahu, who's currently the Prime Minister of Israel. He was the leader of that action that was done. It was called Operation Thunderbolt. Yoni Netanyahu, who led this operation, was killed in Uganda. Now, this is exactly what the senator from Nigeria suggested. His name is Adeyole Arise. Adeyole Arise suggests that Nigeria goes to Burkina Faso and replicate Raid on Entebbe, which was done by professional soldiers, doing things that are extraordinary. They flew under the radar, low altitude, all the way from Israel to Uganda, executing, taking the hostage, killing all the hostage takers and flying back to home. So this is exactly what they suggested. Why is this happening right now? On December 8, 2025, a C-30 aeroplane was on a ferry mission route from Lagos to Portugal, as per the Nigerians. So a Nigerian aeroplane flying from Lagos, look at Lagos on the map. The flight took off from Lagos. You see Lagos? Okay. And it was going supposedly all the way to Portugal for a ferry.
Tired of feeling tired? It's time.
So you hear anything about that?
Yeah, yes, sir. Because I seen the Nigerian plane or whatever that they said was flying over. And so for me, whoever made Nigeria do that, they just trying to provoke, Burkina Faso again the same way. I think how Trump wants to go into Nigeria, they also need a way to go into Burkina Faso if they can.
Irate?
Right. Like that song?
Sure.
Yeah, this is some need to know information tied to Iran. is coming against the U.S. for seizing the tank over in Venezuela. There you go.
U.S. seizure of a Venezuelan oil tanker, an act of state-sponsored piracy. According to Iranian and regional media outlets, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghaei issued a sharp condemnation of Washington's action. U.S. authorities seized the tanker near Venezuela, according to multiple reports. The move marks an escalation in President Trump's pressure campaign against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Since the first Trump administration imposed oil sanctions on Venezuela in 2017, Maduro's government has relied on tankers to move crude into global supply chains despite American restrictions. Iran's spokesperson framed the seizure as illegal and called on other countries to respond. According to Mehr news agency, Baghaei said Iran sees the action as lacking any valid international law basis. Tehran's response was swift and unambiguous, using language that frames Washington's behavior as criminal rather than legal enforcement. Baghaei stated that when a government uses military force against the commercial vessel of another country, whether in international waters or off the coast of a country, Iran considers this a violation of international norms. Tehran uses strong language, piracy, armed robbery at sea. Washington rejects this characterization, describing the action as sanctions enforcement under U.S. law. The Iranian Foreign Ministry sees this as part of a broader pattern. Washington, in Tehran's view, uses its military and financial power to impose its will on nations that refuse to submit to.
I thought this viral space heater was another scam. 8 months later, I haven't touched my central heating once. It's called ClimaWarm.
Is the latest target, but Iran has faced similar pressure for decades. The Iranian spokesperson argued that other countries should oppose this action. According to Iranian state media, Baghaei said it violates international law and that the global community should respond as it would to any piracy. Baghei's argument is straightforward. The entire international community considers itself obligated to act against piracy. Naval vessels from dozens of countries patrol dangerous waters to protect shipping. International courts prosecute pirates. The global community treats piracy as a serious crime that threatens commerce and stability. Iran points to what it calls a double standard. Bilateral sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction that lack a basis in international law and are not authorized by the UN Security Council. Beijing's condemnation strikes at the heart of American claims to legal authority. No UN resolution authorized the seizure of Venezuela's tanker. No international court approved it. America acted alone, based on its own laws, enforced by its own military. China argues this is not law enforcement, but unilateral coercion. The Chinese spokesperson made clear that Washington is acting as judge, jury, and executioner without any international mandate. American sanctions, in Beijing's view, represent the weaponization of economic power against nations that refuse to follow Washington's lead. Beijing called on all parties to abide by the principles of market economy and fair competition. China argues that international trade should be governed by rules agreed upon by all nations, not dictated by one country using its military and financial power to impose its will. For China, this is not just about Venezuela. Beijing faces its own American pressure campaigns, from technology restrictions to tariffs to sanctions on Chinese companies. The Venezuela case illustrates what China sees as American willingness to use any tool available to maintain dominance. China urged the international community to safeguard the stability of global production and supply chains rather than, in its view, disrupting them through unilateral actions.
Okay, so it ain't looking good, this situation. Like I said, I'm thinking that out of this situation with Venezuela as well, World War III is going to break out at. You got any feedback on that?
Shalom, yes, sir. I think you're exactly right. I don't see any other conflict that's that big that can set it off on top of, everything else that's going on, in other countries. But right here with that, well, close to here, with that being the biggest oil reserve or what have you,
Right.
that's gonna set it off because Russia, China, and the U.S. all involved. So
Right.
yeah, that's about to set it off.
And like the guy said, everybody's tired of the double standards.
Right, exactly.
America, yeah. So it's now is the time.
Right, yes, sir. Because I was gonna say too, Brother Leonard, that America not necessarily doing nothing different than they normally have these, however long America been America. But what's different is kind of how you just said is about to be some consequences for
Right.
those, yes sir, for them actions.
Yeah, they say something, take action on a person for something, and then turn right around and they do it. It ain't making no sense. And people tired of it. Well, yeah. So I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. And if anybody got any questions, any comments, any dialogue about anything?
Yes sir. When what is it, Brother Leonard, in Isaiah 11, is my question was, and you brought this down before about the seven angels, but is Isaiah 11, is that about Zerubbabel or David?
It's about it's like I said, it's a process. The way that the Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, how they work is a process to it. And a lot of people want to know what's going to happen in these last days when we get delivered. Well, all you have to do is look at the process and what happened from the beginning and the other captivities. The same captivity is the way it works. So if you go to Isaiah chapter 11, okay, let me get chapter 11. Okay, it says, I'll read verse 1, and then I'll go to verse 10. So it says in verse 1 says, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall go out of his root. And so, like I said, when you've been around this channel and understand that we don't deal with the New Testament, because the God in the New Testament was concocted by these Edomites and these Romans and the Greeks. So it says that out of Jesse, but they want you to think that this out of that is Jesus they're dealing with. But when you understand who Jesse is, they're dealing with David. David is the Messiah, and so he's dealing with David right here. And then you go to verse 10. It says, "In that day, there shall be a root out of Jesse, not out of David." So if it's a root out of Jesse, it's only one person, it's David. Then it says, which shall stand for an ensign. So David gonna be the sign. Now, a prime example of that is Second Ezra, when he explained that when the Lord of hosts explained to Ezra what's gonna happen in the last days at the end of the fourth beast. So he tells them that a man came up out of the sea. A man is David. He says in verse 10, Isaiah chapter 11, verse 10, in that day there shall be a root out of Jesse, which shall stand for ensign of the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. So we see right here, this ensign is a sign. David gonna be the sign. And once you understand that, you can go all over the place. Go to one more place. Go to Ezekiel chapter 37, and you start to see that it's not Jesus, but it's David. Okay, let me get them in 37. 37. Okay, so he's gonna raise up Israel out of all our forefathers out of their graves. Then in verse 23, he says, neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols, right? Including JC, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and I will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And David, my servant, shall be king over them. Yeah, not son of David. David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my statutes and observe my statutes and do them, right? And then my example was a comparison to that is go to Haggai, right quick, and then you'll see the difference. It's a pattern, but he used different people. And in the last days, he's going to use David as an ensign, which is in Isaiah chapter 11. But back to when he delivered the Israelites out of Babylon. Let's look at it. Here you go. Haggai chapter 2, verse 20. This is when he delivered the Israelites out of Babylon, and he used Zerubbabel as an ensign. Same way he's going to use David in the end as an ensign. So it says in Haggai chapter 2, verse 20. And again, they in captivity in Babylon. And again, the word of the Lord came unto Haggai in the 4th and 20th day of the month, saying, speak to Zerubbabel, governor, king of Judah, saying, I will shake the heavens and the earth. Same thing you got to do now. And I will overthrow the thrones of the kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the heathen, and I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride in them, and their horses and their riders shall come down, everyone by the sword of his brother. Now here you go. Same in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 10. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, will I take thee, O Zerubbabel. See that? This time is right here, Zerubbabel. O Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Sethel, said the Lord, and I will make thee a signet. See that? For I have chosen thee, said the Lord of hosts. So you see the difference?
Right, yes, sir. Stem of Jesse, stem of David, branch of David is different.
Right. So he's using that. That's how he operates. And then he did the same thing with Joseph in Egypt, and he did the same thing with the judges. You know, this is a process. You know, once you see how he operates, you know, then you pretty much can see what's getting ready to happen now. Okay.
Right, yes, sir. And then Brother Leonard mentioning Joseph, that's actually part of another question, a second question that I got, sir. With I was watching one of the older videos, and this was mentioned. So the creator gave the Lord of hosts the land of Canaan, right? Which was Shem's land, right?
Right.
And that's the best land on the earth, right?
Right.
And then when we was reading, and in that video, it was saying, I remember that Pharaoh gave Joseph Goshen, which is the best land in Egypt, right?
Right.
So and Joseph was also second in charge, but could you talk about that?
Well, if you go look at when the land was divided up with Joshua, right?
Okay, right, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
It starts in Goshen. Our land started from Goshen to, so Goshen was part of our land.
Wow.
You know that? Did you know that?
Right.
Yeah. So I'll read when we come back. Matter of fact, tomorrow in doing our Q&A, we'll read those verses where go and like I said, so many things in the scriptures that we read right over it, but it says it right there when the allotment is being given. I think part of if I'm not mistaken is Simeon tied to that. Simeon is tied to part of the land, part of the land that was allotted to the Israelites. He says from Goshen to when they describing it. So Goshen was all. That's the reason they received it when they was in Egypt. When they gave them that land, it was already part of their land.
Okay. Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you read it and you see it, you're like, wow, because it's right there, but we just read over. Mm-hmm.
And I do think that I remember seeing that in like the list of the cities before. Now that you say that, but
right.
but read over it, you know, like you
right. But didn't really register.
Right.
You know what
'Cause
I'm
I'm
saying?
like,
But yeah,
man,
right.
that's
And the
difficult.
and the reason Goshen, because of that the way the Nile River operates. How how it dumps all that, it brings all that sediment from up out of the highlands in Ethiopia, and it brings it down through the river and that Nile River basin on both sides. And Goshen is on one side, and you got another fertile and fertile crescent on the other side, but Goshen is on one side of Nile River. That's where Egypt was at. That's where the Israelites was at. Because remember, when they first went there, Joseph was ruling, and they was ruling with Joseph. That's how they got the best part of the land.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Makes sense. And brother, Lynn, I got another. It's another like something else I was seeing online. The Kizanites, right? Because there's a son of Esau named Kenez and a son of Judah. The Kizanites. Um, from at least from what I understand and reading in First Chronicles or what have you. So what some that I'm seeing online recently is that Caleb, and not that this is even important, but I'm seeing people spreading this about that Caleb is an Edomite, saying that he's from that line of Kenez. But just that, like how there's two Enochs, there's two Lamechs, there's two Methuselahs, you know, a lot of people had the same kind of names, just like now. But I keep seeing that because, and there's a few different Calebs as well in the book. But the son of Jephunneh, I've been seeing that because there's not much about who Jephunneh is in the King James. But that's something I've been seeing, brother Leonard. What do you think?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a believe me, it's a trick to it. But I don't think that Caleb is no. I don't think Edomite. It's and that tribe that you mentioned, is something to it, but it ain't. It's like we was dealing with Benjamin, that you had those other nations, the Havites and all them, that was attached to Benjamin, but they weren't Benjamites, because when they came out of Egypt, and Jasher, Moses and Jasher, and Moses, Joshua, Jasher, and all them, they didn't drive all the Israelites out. They didn't drive all the Canaanites out. They ended up having they allowed them to have cities separated from them, but in their territory. Each allotment, each one of those tribes had Canaanite cities in their allotment. And so you would think that they Israelites, but they ain't Israelites. And a prime example of that was, like I said, when those Gibeonites hoodwinked Benjamin, and the Benjamin made an oath with them through the Lord of hosts, so they couldn't renege on the oath that they had made, because it was through the Lord of hosts. So they ended up living there amongst them. But our main topic tonight is going to show you how. And then somebody asked this question a couple of days ago too, about the names in there. But when you understand who we are, that nowadays that we the Israelites, we doing the same thing now. It's just that it's not Israelite names, but we name, because back then those names that name meant something. So that's why you would see it so much, because when they named the kid, the name meant something. So like I was saying, you got two Enochs, you got two Lamechs. Okay, well, when you get to with in the book of Daniel, you got two Dariuses. A lot of people don't know that. You got Darius that was came after Cyrus. I think he's Cyrus' son. During the time of Zerubbabel, that they sent a letter to him. But you also got a Darius in the Medes. But you got Darius in the Persians. And you also got Darius in the Medes, and then you got Darius in the Persians. The very last king of the Persian Empire that fought against Alexander, his name Darius. So you got to rightly divide. You got to understand who's who when you're dealing with. And in this conversation tonight, we're going to see that it's got the doubles. And then you're going to see that by rightly dividing them doubles is when the information become clear. So yeah.
Right, yes, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, that's how they go. So with that, you got anything else?
Oh no, I'm good, brother Leonard.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna play this right here, and then I'm gonna deal with my topic for discussion, which is Trump's new plan for the U.S. to try to dominate the world or redominate the world. But here we go. Let me play this. Okay.
Before the narrative shifts again, y'all ever notice how fast the story changes? How something happens, you see it with your own eyes, and then a week later they're telling you it didn't happen that way, that you misunderstood, that you're being divisive for even bringing it up? Well, it's happening again right now. And if you're black, you need to pay attention before they rewrite the whole thing and gaslight us into thinking we imagined it. What's good, family? Welcome back to Chronicles of Blacks, where we document what actually happened before they tell you what to remember. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Smash that like, drop a comment, and let me know where you're watching from, because this community is global and we're creating a record that can't be erased. Every view, every share, every comment preserves the truth before it gets rewritten. This is not about left or right. This is not about Democrat or Republican. This is about what's real versus what they want you to believe is real. Now let's get into this, because what we're dealing with is a pattern that keeps repeating. Something happens. Black people respond. The response has power. The system panics. And then the narrative shifts. Suddenly, what you saw didn't happen the way you saw it. What you experienced wasn't real.
What if your small business could run a TV ad on the #1?
Insisting on the truth, you're the problem. You're divisive. You're making everything about race. You're living in the past. Let me give you the facts first, because we always start with receipts. Over the past few months, we've watched Black Americans organize economic boycotts, Christmas boycotts, Black Friday boycotts, withholding our dollars from corporations that don't serve our interests, that fund politicians who harm our communities, that take our money but give nothing back. And the impact was real. Retailers panicked. Stores were empty. Major news outlets reported on it. Financial analysts expressed concern. Suddenly, Black Santas appeared in CBS after 34 years of them never being there. Suddenly, corporations were scrambling to show representation they never cared about before. Suddenly, our economic power was undeniable. But now, watch what's happening. The narrative is shifting. Media outlets are starting to report that the boycotts didn't really work, that Black spending didn't actually drop, that the impact was exaggerated, that it was just social media hype with no real-world effect. They're rewriting what happened in real time. And if we don't pay attention, if we don't document what actually occurred, they'll convince people that our power was an illusion. They'll convince the next generation that organizing doesn't work. They'll convince us to go back to being passive consumers who accept whatever scraps they throw at us. Let me set up what we're seeing, because this is where the pattern becomes undeniable. When the boycotts were first announced, when Black people started saying we're not spending, the response was immediate: panic. Articles in major publications about how retailers were worried about the holiday season. Videos of empty Walmart stores on Black Friday going viral. Corporations scrambling to put up Black imagery, Black Santas, Black Christmas decorations that had never been there before. Financial analysts on CNBC and Bloomberg talking about the potential impact of reduced Black consumer spending. That was real. That happened. We all saw it. We all documented it. But now, weeks later, the story is changing. Now they're saying, well, actually, Black spending didn't drop that much. Now they're saying, well, the economy was already struggling for other reasons. Now they're saying, well, it's hard to measure the real impact of any single demographic. Now they're saying, well, some Black people still spent money, so the boycott wasn't really effective. They're softening the story. They're reframing it. They're adding qualifiers and caveats. They're making it seem like what we did didn't matter, like our power was overstated, like the panic was unwarranted. Now here's my verdict on this. This is how they maintain control. This is how they keep us from recognizing our power. Because if we believe that our boycotts didn't work, we won't do them again. If we believe that our economic leverage doesn't matter, we won't use it. If we believe that our collective action has no impact, we'll go back to being passive consumers who accept whatever they give us. This is psychological warfare. This is narrative control. This is gaslighting on a massive institutional scale. But the truth is, it did work. The panic was real. The response was real. The impact was real. And the fact that they're now trying to rewrite the story, the fact that they're now minimizing what happened, the fact that they're now telling us it didn't matter, that tells you everything you need to know about how threatened they were. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't be working so hard to convince us it didn't matter. Let me break down the hypocrisy here, because this is where it gets infuriating. When Black people organize, when we use our economic power, when we withhold our dollars, we're told it doesn't matter. We're told we're too small a percentage of the economy. We're told our boycotts don't work. We're told we're just hurting ourselves. We're told we're being divisive. We're told we should just work within the system instead of protesting against it. But then, why the panic? Why the immediate response? Why the scrambling to put up Black imagery? Why the articles about retailers being worried? Why the financial analysts expressing concern? Why the corporations suddenly caring about representation? Theories. This is about being aware. This is about recognizing that the system has a vested interest in making you believe you're powerless. Because if you believe you're powerless, you won't use your power. And if you don't use your power, they maintain control. It's that simple. Think about how many times this has happened in our history. The Tulsa Race Massacre, where a thriving Black community was destroyed, was erased from history books for decades. The government experiments on Black people, like the Tuskegee syphilis study, were denied and covered up for years. The FBI's COINTELPRO program that targeted Black leaders and organizations was a conspiracy theory until the documents were leaked and proved it was real. The crack epidemic and the CIA's role in flooding Black communities with drugs was dismissed as paranoia until investigative journalists proved it was true. Over and over again, Black people have been told that what we experienced didn't happen, that what we saw wasn't real, that what we remember is wrong. And over again, years or decades later, the truth comes out. The documents get declassified. The whistleblowers come forward. The evidence becomes undeniable. And we were right all along. So when they try to tell you that the boycotts didn't work, that your economic power doesn't matter, that the panic was overblown, that the impact was exaggerated, remember the pattern. Remember that they have a history of lying to us, of gaslighting us, of rewriting our history to make us feel powerless. And
okay. What you think?
Yeah, well, yes, sir. Definitely doing that, rewriting the history to make us feel powerless. And even that in the same video I mentioned earlier, when you talk about the name, Brother Leonard, like them changing our name
Right.
from the dang, what are they called? But like the documents, you know how there was
The
record
spaceship
right.
manifestos.
Yeah, yeah, the manifesto. That's how you say it. So yeah, the manifesto, that was one of the things, and not letting us know that there's a God attached to our lineage.
Right, exactly. Right. Right. And that shouldn't be no surprise because they went into our scriptures and it went them. And so what they're doing at Walmart and what they're trying to do with the stock market, you shouldn't be surprised. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and keep doing it over and over.
Right.
The same system.
Exactly. Okay, so now this is my topic for discussion.
The U.S. government has published
We'll play this and then we'll get into our list.
a document outlining its new strategy to try to maintain global dominance. This is the National Security Strategy of 2025. And I think this is being misrepresented by many Western media outlets, which are misleadingly claiming that supposedly the Donald Trump administration is planning to withdraw the US from the world. That could not be further from the truth. I read every single word of this document, and today I'm going to be explaining the most important details. In short, what this document essentially shows is that the United States sees China as the main threat to its global dominance. However, Washington recognizes that China is now too powerful militarily, politically, and especially economically for the US to actually wage a war against China. So instead, the US has to change strategy. In the short term, what the US wants to try to do is to decouple economically from China by developing a new supply chain. And that supply chain will be located in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas. And the US government wants to impose its imperial hegemony in Latin America and destabilize and overthrow any independent governments in the region that are allied with China and Russia. This is why the US is waging a war against Venezuela.
Exactly.
Why don't the Japanese get diabetes? While you're stabbing yourself with
to control all of the countries in Latin America, to take factories out of China and out of Asia, and instead to nearshore and friendshore those factories in Latin America, recognizing that those factory jobs in China and East Asia, they're not coming back to the United States. Instead, US companies will manufacture their products exploiting low-paid labor in countries in Latin America, using minerals and oil and gas and other natural resources from the Americas to create a new supply chain with critical minerals and rare earths, which the US also wants to try to get from Greenland. This is a reason why Trump wants to colonize Greenland, in order to create this large fortress America, as they say, to prepare for conflict with China in the medium to the long term. But this document demonstrates that the Trump administration now recognizes that in the short term, it can't attack China because the US is too economically dependent on China. And by the way, I have to say that all of this is quite ironic because in April 2025, when Trump launched a massive trade war on countries all around the world, the main target of the US trade war was China. At one point, US tariffs on China were more than 140%. And the Trump administration was very arrogant. The billionaire hedge fund manager, who is the head of the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he infamously claimed that China was playing with a losing hand, that by defending itself and retaliating against US economic aggression, China had supposedly made a big mistake because he claimed that the US held all of the cards. But then Washington learned the hard way that that was not true. China actually had significant leverage that it used to defend itself in this unilateral trade war started by Trump. and China restricted the export of rare earths to the US, which emphasizes that, quote, Europe remains strategically and culturally vital to the United States. Transatlantic trade remains one of the pillars of the global economy and of American prosperity, end quote. And it adds that one of the goals is, quote, opening European markets to US goods and services, end quote. So what the US is saying is it's not going to protect Europe anymore. It's going to force Europe to pay for its own military and to pay for NATO operations. But the US still wants to turn Europe into a captive market for US exports. So the US wants to reindustrialize and nearshore production into Latin America, create this new supply chain where US corporations can create products, and then they will sell those products to Europe and force Europe to lift all tariffs. And the US will put tariffs on European products, which is already what happened. The US imposed this unequal treaty on the EU, in which the EU does not have any tariffs on US goods, and the US has tariffs on European goods. So the US can forcibly turn Europe into a captive market for.
Okay, what you think about that? You think that's gonna happen? Like I said, they grasping for straws, look like to me.
Right, yes, sir. Looking for something anywhere they can fit in.
Exactly. So like I said, it's gonna, and when you start listening to this, actually with ears wide open, you can see that when this do happen, it's gonna happen so fast, and once it starts falling apart, it ain't gonna be nothing to stop it.
Right.
And that's
yes,
what a lot of people not preparing it. A lot of people are not preparing for that. But when it happens, it's gonna happen so quick. You know what I'm saying? And yeah.
Oh yes, sir. And you can see, Brother Leonard, that they not operating from the stance of dominance no more.
No. Yeah, they grasping for straws. Like the guy was just talking about on the other article we was listening to, that they want to make you think that the boycotts and all that and the African Americans been doing ain't working, but it's working. Yeah, it's working. Believe me.
Right.
So yeah. So like I said before, I'm gonna deal with my topic. My subject for tonight is was Sarah Abraham's wife and his sister. So we're gonna play the video. We're gonna jump off our information that we already have, and then and get some feedback. So tie your shoes up. Yeah.
Did you know?
Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Trumpet's Call. I'm Amaria. I pray that you are holding on to faith, amunah, and holding on to hope, tekua, during these times. Thank you for joining me once again on the channel and for another session of our Torah Tidbits.
So get your pen and pencil out.
In our Torah Tidbits session today, we're going to be addressing the question of Sarah, or Sarah, and Abraham. Was Sarah Abraham's sister? Now, several instances in the scriptures, we see that Sarah is being described as Abraham's sister. And he says that Sarah is the daughter of his father, but not of his mother. Is that so? Are we reading the scriptures correctly? Because we know that Torah teaches that a man should not marry the daughter of his father, even if they have different mothers. And even though Torah was not something that was written down for us to read at that.
So is that true? That can't marry your sister in the Hebrew culture?
But from what I do remember, Brother Leonard, I did think that it said that not to marry from if y'all had the same father.
Exactly.
I'm wrong. Right, yeah, that's how I understood.
Right. Okay.
At the time, we know that and we understand that our ancestors operated by an oral Torah, and so that would not have been something that would have been allowed, or would it? So we're going to talk about these things today. Let's get into it. We're going to be addressing the question, were Abraham and Sarah brother and sister? So we're going to begin in Bereshith chapter 20, verse 12. We're simply going to read this verse of scripture to give a foundational framework for whom our father Abraham is saying his wife is. In response to the question from Abimelech as to why he would say, why did you say this was your sister when she's really your wife? We see our father Abraham saying, because I thought, surely the fear of Yahweh is not in this place, and they will kill me on account of my wife. But indeed, she truly is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So the implication here is that Abraham's father had a wife, and he had a daughter with a particular woman, and he had Abraham with another woman, and that Abraham and Sarah were brother and sister from the same father but different mothers. That's the implication, okay? For now, we will operate on that assumption that Abraham and Sarah are brother and sister, same father, different mothers, okay? So now we're going to read the scriptural pretext for who should marry whom. Should daughters marry fathers? Should daughters marry brothers? Should daughters marry cousins and uncles and so on and so forth? Should men marry their sisters or their half sisters or their stepsisters? We're going to allow the scriptures to speak.
Okay.
So we're going to begin in Leviticus or Huakra, chapter 18. We're going to just address what Torah says about who we should marry and the familial bonds that we're not allowed to violate through marriage. Okay, beginning in verse 7 in Leviticus Huakra, chapter 18, we read, do not violate your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. You must not have sexual relations with her. Do not have relations with any of your father's wives, for this would violate your father. Do not have relations with your sister.
So she's over in Leviticus. Remember that. We in Leviticus, right?
Or half sister, whether she is your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born into your household or someone else's. Now, here we see that based on the way the scripture is read, that Abraham would have been having relations with his father's daughter by another woman. And Torah says that this is unacceptable.
Exactly.
So was he doing this? And did the Most High Yahuwah sanction it or allow it? Let's continue. In verse 10, we read, do not have relations with your granddaughter, whether she is your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. This would violate yourself. Do not have relations with your stepsister, the daughter of any of your father's wives, for she is your sister. Once again, we see that if Abraham married a woman who was his father's daughter from any marriage, or if she were his stepsister, he would be violating Torah. Okay, let's continue. Do not have relations with your father's sister, for she is your father's close relative. Do not have relations with your mother's sister, for she is your mother's close relative. Do not violate your uncle, your father's brother, by having relations with his wife, for she is your aunt. Do not have relations with your daughter-in-law, for she is your son's wife. So you must not have relations with her. Do not have relations with your brother's wife, for this would violate your brother. Unless, of course, it was in the case of if your brother had died and you were operating under the Levirate law where you took her into your home and she became your wife.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Get your pen, bro. So have you ever heard of that? The Levirate law?
So is that not the same thing as the seed redeemer?
It's tied to it, but yeah, but never heard of called this. So
No,
it's the
me, I
Liberator,
haven't.
huh?
No, sir, I haven't heard that term before at all.
Right, but notice he got Leviticus, it's tied to the Levites.
Right, yes, sir.
Yeah, remember, okay, yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, keep going.
And finally, in verse 17, do not have relations with both a woman and her daughter, and do not take her granddaughter, whether her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, and have relations with her. They are close relatives, and this would be a wicked act. So we have our instructions from the Father regarding who we are to abstain from relations with. And if we are to abstain from relations with these relatives, it means that we, of course, should not marry them. So let's continue. In Barashith, or Genesis chapter 12, verses 10 through 13, we read, Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt, or Mitzrayim, to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when he was close to entering Mitzrayim, Egypt, that he said to Sarai, his wife, this is before her name had been changed, Indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore, it will happen when the Mitzrayim see you that they will say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Please say you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that I may live because of you.
Yeah, I just want to shine a point on this. I just want to put a, like I said, my thing is to try to paint a picture for you, because there's things that be going on and we have no idea. So right here, Abraham took Sarah to the side and he told her, we're going to go into the land of and notice that word Mezarine. So that's them giants, right?
Right, yes, sir.
So he telling her this, he afraid. A lot of
Right.
people don't understand that the Mezarine, these are race of giants, like you got those races of giants in Deuteronomy chapter 2. So they getting ready to come into this land, and then we know the story from the book of Enoch that what they just terrorized everything. That's what they was doing during the time of Cain descendants. They come in and they rape the children, little boys, little girls, women, men, and anybody. So they get ready to come into that region. So Abraham saying that, you know how they are, they're gonna, you know, they find out that you, I'm not your I'm your husband, they're gonna kill me to get you. But if you tell them I'm your brother, then you know, they ain't gonna tell, they have a problem with me. So he's afraid. The reason why he's telling her this, keep that in mind.
This is the first instance in which we see Abraham asking Sarah to say, I am your sister, or you are my brother, so that those in the regions where they're traveling won't attempt to kill him to take her for themselves. Let's continue. In the second instance, we see in Genesis, or Barashith chapter 20, and it reads, And Abraham journeyed from there to the south and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, or Ashur, and stayed in Gerar. Now Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, now at this point their names have been changed. They are no longer Abram and Sarai, they are Abraham or Abraham and Sarah. Now Abraham said of Sarah, his wife, She is my sister. And King Abimelech of Gerar sent and took Sarah. Skipping to verse 11. When the king of Gerar, Abimelech, said, Why did you not tell me that she was your wife? I have had dreams and visions and all kinds of scary thoughts, thinking that I had taken another man's wife. Why didn't you tell me?
So let's look at that right quick. Let's look at that. I say this right here, this a doozy. So you go to right quick, Genesis chapter 6. Notice what she just said, that Amalek came and literally took her. Because he's a man of stature. They descended from the giants. So I'm in Genesis chapter 6. It says, came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, that daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, these angels, saw that the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took. See that? Just like he just said. They took violently, took them wives of all which they chose. See that? Matter if they married or not. That's why Abraham telling her, because this had from right here all the way to the time of Abraham, this what had been going on. People already understood that. But they was violent. So he's telling her, tell them I'm your brother because of you know what they do. So this right here is where it's coming from. So and most people don't understand that. So we keep going.
Tell me. And this is Abraham's explanation. He says, because I thought, surely the fear of Yahuwah is not in this place.
They don't respect
Then they will kill me on account of my wife.
They don't respect
but indeed, she truly is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother.
Okay.
And she became my wife. And it came to pass, when Yahuwah caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, this is your kindness that you should do for me. In every place, wherever we go, say of me, he is my brother. Okay, so based on what we have read previously about who can marry whom in Torah, this would not be a legitimate pairing, having Abraham married to a woman who was the daughter of his father, but not the daughter of his mother. This would be illegitimate in the Most High's sight. So when Abraham says that Sarah is his sister, is he lying? Is he telling the truth? Which is it? Do we have an illegitimate pairing? Or is she really not his sister? Let's continue. We're going to look at the genealogy of Terah, Abraham's father. So we see Terah here as the father of Abraham, and then we see Abraham and Sarah. We see Isaac, Hagar, Ishmael, and the family line going down on the left side of the page. And then we see Terah's two other sons, Nahor and Haran. Haran was the father of Lot. And it has here that Haran was the father of Milcah and Iscah also. But is that true? Is that so? We're going to look at that and see whether or not that lines up with scripture as well. So this is the family tree that we're operating under right now. Okay.
So I'm gonna stop it right there. So the question, when doing the Q&A session, you was mentioning about the double names, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. So Terah is Abraham's father, right?
Right.
So who is Terah's father? I'm going to go to
Nahor.
Nahor. Then you go down here. Terah got a son named Nahor.
Right.
Genesis chapter. Let me see here. Chapter 10 and chapter 11.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see. Yeah, chapter 11, verse 24 says, Nahor, okay, now, died. I just had this in my tripping. Yeah, here you go, 27. 11 and 27 says, now, these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abraham, Nahor, see that? And Haran.
Right.
So it's two Nahors, right?
Right.
But so then you keep looking at that, you're gonna find out it's two Harans. Okay. So Abraham got a brother named Haran, right?
Right. Okay.
Remember when you go to the book, when you go to Jasher, Haran, the one got burned up in the fire because he didn't believe. Right. And so that's the reason why back to what I was talking about what we found out about Zerubbabel, when he said that Jeconiah was not a son out of his lineage going to sit on the throne of David. Right?
Right, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's this law right here. What we just said, Leviticus, I can't think of the name of it, but That's what's going on. So Haran, Terah got a brother. Abraham's daddy got a brother named Haran. We're gonna see that in a minute. So Terah, Abraham's daddy, got a brother named Haran, and then Abraham got a brother named Haran, but he got an uncle named Haran. Okay.
Right. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So it's two Harans. So it's gonna come into play in a minute. So you got two Nahors, you got two Harans, and so what? I don't think that she understand that part of it, but what you're not understanding when I tell you about people like Josephus and all them, and what they did in Alexandria, Egypt. So they turned this around and made it denigrate Abraham, like they did all like they said. Joseph supposed to have been a usurper. Noah was a drunk, and right here they trying to make it look like Abraham married his sister.
Right. Yes, sir. But
you know what I'm saying?
Right. I caught that. I was gonna say, Brother Leonard, that, but it don't say that. Right here where you were just reading that, it don't say that he begat Sarah.
Right. Yeah, as you go in, we're gonna uncover what's really going on. But I don't think that what the person that's talking understand that it's not a mistake or whatever. It's they use this to denigrate Abraham. Reason why to this day the average person, the Christian or whatever this Bible reader, think Abraham married his sister Sarah. Right?
Yes, sir. So this is like how they're trying to do King David, like being a Moab.
Right. Yeah, that's my this is what I got out of this when I watched it. So now you're gonna find out that it's that's holy. The same way like when you see where the Most High would hold a woman womb, close a womb.
Okay, right, yes, sir.
And then when he do open the room, that kid gonna be righteous. It's gonna be something about that kid. He gonna remember how he did with Joseph.
Exactly.
And how he did with Isaac. Sarah's room was closed. How he did with Samuel. He had the woman room closed, right? This right here, this the Lizarite law, whatever that she was saying. This is the same thing going on. We saw him do the same thing with Zerubbabel. You follow me?
Right.
Okay, he did the same thing with Zerubbabel. He did it with David.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but yeah, so check it out. We'll keep going.
So one of the things that we want to look at is to make sure that when the scripture says this one begat this one, we're understanding it correctly. Okay, so on the page here is another breakdown of Terah's family. So we start with Nahor. Nahor was Terah's father. And then we have Terah, or Terah. And then Terah has three sons, Haran, Abram, and Nahor. And then we see once again the son of Haran, Lot. And we see Milcah and Iscah being assigned as the daughters of Haran. Okay? In Bereshith chapter 11, verses 27 through 32, we read, this is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in his native land, in Ur of the Chaldeans.
See, that's a trickeration right there, because we know how he died. Abraham was put in the furnace, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
That if you seeking the truth and trying to get to the bottom of the truth, you would want to know all that. But they leaving all that out. Okay. But anyway.
Then Abram and Nahor took wives. Okay. So the implication here is that Haran had Lot, then he died. Okay, it doesn't mention any other children.
So remember,
it just says
it's another lot.
Haran had
It's
Lot,
another Haran.
then he died. And then after he died, Abram and Nahor took wives. And the name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. Okay, so above we saw Haran being Lot's father, but there's no mention until now of having any daughters. Okay, so we know he had a son and he died. And now we see daughters being associated to him, Ishka and Milcah. Let's continue the page. But Sarai was barren. She had no child. And Terah took his son, Abram, and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law, Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. So the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Question: if Sarai and Milcah were Haran's daughters, why does it read Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot? Why doesn't he say his grandson Lot and his granddaughter Sarai? But he doesn't call her granddaughter. He calls her daughter-in-law, Abram's wife, implying that there's not as close a connection as you would think. Let's continue. So now we're going to be reading the same verse of scripture in Bereshith chapter 20 from the version of scripture called the Targums of Jonathan. In this
You see how this important? You see why these books so important? Okay, watch this.
particular translation of the scriptures often gives a lot more information and brings some clarity regarding.
You got this book, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What is written in the King James Version, because these scriptures are translated by human beings, and sometimes words are left out. Sometimes things are skipped over, glossed over, letters are changed. Okay, so let's see how the Targum's version of Bereshith chapter 20 reads. And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What hast thou seen that thou didst this thing?" And Abraham said, "Because I said in my heart, the fear of Yahuwah is not in this place, and they will kill me for the sake of my wife. But in truth, she is my sister, the daughter of my father's brother."
See, they go to the other Haran right here. Terah got a brother named Haran. There it is right there. But anyway.
Something different. He's saying she is truly my sister, but she is the daughter not of my father, but of my father's brother, but not of the kindred of my mother. And she became my wife. And it was when they sought to turn me aside to the worship of idols, I went forth from my father's house, and I said to her, "This is the kindness thou shalt do me. In every place to which we come, say concerning me, he is my brother." Now, this verse of scripture reads almost identical to the way it reads in the New King James Version, but there's one important word that is added: my father's brother.
Ain't that what happened with Zerubbabel?
Right.
His brother. That was which call was cursed. And his brother one took the wife and got Zerubbabel as a kinsman redeemer. Right?
Yes, sir. Padiah.
Right. And we see the same thing right here. What happened was Terah, Abraham's daddy, brother, Haran, died. And he had two daughters. And Terah took them to himself. They became in his house, under his roof, because he had to take care of them. He had to take the wife. When Haran died, the wife and the kids that was born. And now they with him. So you say, what are you talking about? Ain't that what happened with Esther?
Right.
Remember the war had war. They was in a war, and Esther and her mom and dad got killed. And Mordecai took her in. She became under his roof, so just like her daughter. Before in Hebrew culture, it's just like a daughter, but she ain't no. They have no lineage, no linkage. Especially when it comes to brother and sister, like genetically. They under Terra house because Terra had to take them in.
Right.
Okay?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And then another thing about that, another thing we got to look at too. Remember back in Jasher with the before the flood, how that what the man did, he would marry his daddy's the man would marry his daddy's brother daughter, according to what he was in the when the kids were born. If he was the firstborn, then he already knew he was gonna marry the firstborn of his uncle of his daddy brother's children. The firstborn girl is gonna be the son of the brother is gonna marry the firstborn daughter of his brother. You gotta go back and look at it, but I'm just breaking it down. So this wasn't no coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like what they call that it's over in the Middle East. It come from us, but it's in the Middle East. They still kind of doing it where the girl already promised to somebody.
Right. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She already got somebody she's gonna marry. That's what it is. And when you go back in Jasher and Jubilees, you see them doing that, especially in Jasher before the flood. Okay, but anyway, let's keep going.
In Hebrew, my father's brother. Okay. Well, for those of you who have taken any kind of genealogy lessons, you'll know that would make Sarah Abraham's first cousin and not his sister.
Not his sister.
But oftentimes in the scriptures, any kind of familiar relationship, people refer to others as she is my sister, he is my brother, because that's what we do. Even in the awakening, we call each other sister and brother. Yet I'm not your legitimate biological sister, and you're not my legitimate biological brother, but I call you brother or I call you sister, for those of you who know me. Okay? So let's continue on. We're going to be reading a source from Josephus' Antiquities of the Jews, chapter 6, right, in which it addresses the question of Haran and the genealogy of Terah. And it reads, I will now treat of the Hebrews. The son of Peleg, whose father was Eber, he says Heber, but we know it's Eber, was Ragal or Ru, whose son was Serug, to whom was born Nahor. His son was Terah, who was the father of Abraham, who accordingly was the 10th from Noah and was born in the 292nd year after the deluge. For Terah begot Abram in his 70th year, and Nahor begot Haran when he was 120 years old.
They go to other Haran.
Okay, so here's something additionally that we did not read in the King James Version of the scriptures. What we didn't read in the King James Version was that Nahor had two sons. The first son's name was Terah, who was Abraham's father, and the second son was Haran. Haran. So what we're seeing here is that there is another Haran. There are two Harans. This is a reliable source in the Antiquities of the Jews or Yahudim by Josephus. This is a reliable source. And what he's demonstrating to us is that in the scriptures, there are two Harans. There's an older Haran who is the brother of Terah, and there's a younger Haran who is the son of Terah. Okay? Could it be that?
So you see what's happening, right? I'm always talking about this, but a lot of times I think people might not be really catching on what I'm saying. So, like I said, all the truths is over there with them Edomite books that they got, right?
Exactly.
And then you told so many, you're always hearing this. You told so many lies. You don't forgot the lie you told. You had to tell another lie for another lie, and now it's all backfired. It's backfired.
Right.
And the truth is coming forth out of all the lies. So anyway.
That Sarah was the daughter of the elder Haran, who would be the brother of Abraham's father, just like he said in the Targums. We're going to revisit Bereshith chapter 11 and read a little bit more carefully to see if we can pick up on some things that we didn't pick up on the first time. It reads, this is the genealogy of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot, and Haran died before his father Terah in his native land of Ur of the Chaldeans. Okay, so once again, we don't see any other children being attributed to Haran the younger. We'll call them Haran the elder and Haran the younger. We don't see any other children besides Lot being attributed to Haran at this time. And then we see that Abram and Nahor took wives. And the name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. So it goes to a special effort right here to tell us that the father of Iscah and the father of Milcah was Haran. But if it was the Haran from above with Lot, why wouldn't it just include all of that information at the same time instead of separating it out? I believe it's because this is a separate Haran. What we're being told here is that Iscah and Milcah are the daughters of Haran the elder. Okay, Haran the elder. So what I believe is happening here is you're seeing the Levirate law being enacted. It appears that Terah's brother Haran died before he had a son or while his daughters were young. And so the Levirate law indicates that if a man dies childless or without an heir, a male heir, his brother is to take his wife into his home, and he is to become her husband and raise up seed, raise up a male heir for him. And if he has daughters, of course, he would bring those daughters into his house, and he would become their quote unquote father, not genetically their father, but legally their father. He would look out for them and care for them, okay? And this is what it appears happened, that Haran the elder died, and Terah, his brother, brought his wife and her daughters into their household. And so Milcah and Iscah became the sisters of Abram and Nahor. So they married their sisters, but they weren't really their genetic sisters. They were their first cousins. So you may be asking yourself, well, who was this Iscah? I thought that Abraham's wife's name was Sarai before it was changed to Sarah. Well, let's continue, and I'm going to show you what the scripture says regarding Iscah and Sarah, okay? Because there's a lot in a name. Sometimes in the scriptures, we see a person referred to in a particular way, but you know, family, the way we go, we love nicknames. We love to call people by pet names. And I think this is what we're seeing here. So the name that we see in the scriptures in the modern Hebrew is Iscah. But in the Paleo Hebrew or the Paleo Abrit, it is Yaska. Yaska. And the word is derived from an unused root word meaning to watch or observant. And the implication here is that this person is someone who can see things, a seer, someone who is prophetic, someone who has a prophetic gift. So this name is indicating someone who's a prophet or a prophetess. So this is the name of Milcah's sister, Yaska. Okay, let's continue. We also read that Yaska or Iscah's name has a special meaning. Smith's Bible Dictionary says her name means one who looks forth. In other words, she likely had the gift of prophecy. Hence, people sometimes think she and Sarah are the same. Some believe Sarah also had this gift, the same gift, okay? And so I'll tell you right off the bat, I believe that Iscah and Sarah are the same person. Otherwise, mentioning Iscah at this point in scripture makes no sense. It only makes sense if Iscah is Sarah. Okay, let's continue. Traditional identifications and interpretations. Ancient Jewish commentators occasionally identified Iscah with Sarai, suggesting a second name or title rooted in her spiritual insight. Others view her as a distinct person whose mention honors an otherwise unrecorded life that nevertheless contributed to the steady march of redemptive history. Either way, her name associated with vision or perception invites reflection on spiritual sight amid widespread spiritual blindness. In the records, in the history, it has been intimated that Sarah or Sarai is Iscah, and that Iscah is the name that her father gave her, but that Sarai was a name that was given to her when she entered into Terah's household. So it looks as if Sarai was Yaskah's nickname. Sarai means my princess. And Yahuwah, of course, changed her name to Sarah, princess. But her original name was Yaskah, which indicated a prophetic gift. Did Sarah have a prophetic gift? Was she a prophetess? A woman who speaks by divine inspiration? Or as an interpreter through whom the will of Yah is expressed? Let's continue. Once again, in the Targums of Jonathan, reading in Barashith chapter 21, and it reads, and Sarah observed the son of Hagar, the Mitzrayim, whom she bare to Abraham, mocking with a strange worship and bowing to Yahuwah. And she said to Abraham, cast out this handmaid and her son, for it is not possible for the son of this handmaid to inherit with my son, and he to make war with Yatzah. And the thing was very evil in Abraham's eyes on account of Ishmael his son, who would practice a strange worship. And Yahuwah said to Abraham, let it not be evil in thine eyes on account of the youth who goeth forth from thy nurturing, and of thy handmaid whom thou sentest away. Hearken unto all that Sarah saith to thee, because she is a prophetess.
See that? So they took that out. So now it makes sense why he told Abraham to hearken to Sarah. Because Sarah was prophesying. Ain't that something?
Right, yes, sir.
Now it makes sense. It's still saying that's what I mean about when the truth comes, you gotta deal with it. So that's now that makes sense why, because that was always in the back of my head. Why did he tell them to hearken to like with Adam? Why you hearken to your wife? But right here, why did he hearken to Sarah? Because she's a prophetess. Sarah was prophesying. Okay, like this song. So here we go right here. That you have to deal with as an Israelite if you want to grow. So we see that Miriam was a prophetess, right?
Yes, sir.
We see that Sarah was a prophetess. But go to Isaiah and like I said, they use these things and denigrated them. They sent us down the wrong road. So with Isaiah chapter 7:14, remember, a woman gonna conceive and have a son and call it, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes, sir.
So we come to find out what that really meant was he told Isaiah to go to his wife, the prophetess. Abraham or Isaiah's wife was a prophetess. Okay.
Sure.
So they uncovered a whole bunch of stuff in this right here. That's the reason I'm playing it. So they didn't denigrate that. They didn't denigrate that was what was going on when it came to that. And then, like I was saying before, let me see how you say that. Levirate marriage. That's how we getting all these people like we got. That's how we got David. That's how we got Solomon, pretty much. Then that's how we got Esther. It came from this right here, the Kinsman Redeemer thing. David. So it's something holy. It's the Most High preserving a certain person or a certain son or daughter. He preserving them for a certain reason. They coming forth like this. Even with Judah. Remember how Judah ended up with Tamar?
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. We keep going.
Yes, God. For in Yatsach shall sons be called unto thee, and this son of the handmaid shall not be genealogized.
She prophesied. She prophesied.
Okay. So the heritage is going to come through Yatsach and not through Ishmael. But the father said, listen to Sarah, because she is a prophetess.
Okay.
And thus her name, Yaska, is being applied here. She was born with the name Yaska, for she had prophetic gift, but she's also called princess because of the wonderful work that Abba had in store for her to bring forth the seed who would inherit the promise.
Check out what princess
So now we're going to look at an alternate interpretation of Terah's family tree. So we begin with Nahor, who was the father of Terah. Nahor had two sons. He had Terah at age 75, and he had Haran at age 120. So there were two sons. And then we see Terah. He had children. He had three sons. He had a son whom he named Haran, likely after his brother Haran, who died. He had a son named Abram, and he had a son named Nahor. But he also took on Haran, the elder's two daughters, Iscah and Malka. Okay? Haran, the younger, the son of Terah, he also died young, and he had a son named Lot. And now it makes a whole lot more sense why in Genesis, or Bereshit chapter 11, we saw the division of the children. We saw Haran, the younger, having Lot as his son, and then he died. And then we saw Milcah and Yaska attributed to someone named Haran, right? But that was Haran the elder. Let's continue. So now we're going to take a look at a reference that ties this all together for us very nicely. And it reads, it will be noted that Terah's brother, Haran, had two daughters, Iscah and Milcah. The former of these, Iscah, was Sarah by another name. This identification, very widely agreed upon, was accepted in Jewish commentaries and is assumed by Josephus in his Antiquities, Book 1. It may appear to the reader that large liberties are being taken with the text, but this is not really the case. Like many others, Hebrew people commonly accepted the principle that if a man's brother married a woman and subsequently died before the children were married, he took his brother's place and became, in effect, both her husband and the father of her children. This is the basis of the Pharisees' hypothetical question in Luke chapter 20, verses 27 through 38. If therefore Terah's brother Haran had died, the duty of becoming, in effect, the father of Iscah and Milcah would automatically devolve upon Terah. Terah's new children would then become sisters to his own sons. And when Abraham and Nahor subsequently married Iscah and Milcah, they would socially be marrying their own sisters. Genetically, they were not, the two girls being cousins. However, there were a special kind of cousin, namely parallel cousins. The term has been invented by anthropologists to signify the following relationship. My father's brother's children are parallel cousins. By contrast, my mother's brother's children are cross cousins.
It's holy.
In a Semitic society, the ideal wife for a man was one of his parallel cousins. Furthermore, where several sons existed and several female parallel cousins, it was assumed that the oldest son would marry the oldest girl, and so on down the line. The expected wife for Abraham would therefore be his uncle Haran's daughter of comparable age. Okay? And so what we see here with his parallel cousins is that if Abraham's father's brother had children, it would be expected that Abraham's father's sons would marry his daughters,
that was part of the
or
law.
depending on whether they had daughters or
That's what they was
sons,
doing
the other
before
way
the flood.
around. It would be assumed that cousins married cousins. And if you search the scriptures, you'll see that whenever there was a need within the family line of Abraham for a wife, they would go back to Haran. They would go back to the land of where Abraham was from and choose a wife from there.
Ain't that what Eliezer did with Rebecca?
Yes, sir.
And then Jacob. Jacob went, and then where you go? Just it's two girls right here. Jacob went and got it. It was two girls. And then Ada and Zillah with Canaan. Okay.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And he told, and like he said, our whole time we read over it. I think I mentioned it. Mentioned it. I don't know if it stuck it, but in Jasher, remember it told they came and told Sarah about her brother. I can't think of his name. Sarah's brother. That Jacob went into. So anyway, he told her that Laban had two daughters. Right? When they was born, it was told in Jasher that Abram had that Laban had two girls, and they named the two girls what's their name? Sarah and not Sarah, but
Leah and Rachel.
Yeah, Leah and Rachel. It said in Jasher, and then later on, that's where Jacob ended up at, and both of them was his. You see that?
Right. Yes, sir.
And he is right here, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's, like I said, if you go to the book of Jasher, you're gonna see who Noah married. Noah married his daddy, brother, daughter. Same thing. So anyway, come to find out that word Sarah means my princess. So her actual name was Iskar, but that Sarah come from this law right here. That Abraham already knew that was his princess. Whole time they growing up. That's my princess, Sarah. Okay. Yeah. You got any feedback on that?
That, like you said, is coming out. That's something else. Cause I didn't know all that. And so that missing link right there in this liverite law.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. It's being employed all through the scriptures, but we don't know nothing about it. It's holy. That's how you get. That's how, like I said, that's how you get David. That's how you got Samuel. You know what I'm saying? Well, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's like him. He reserving certain people. He had certain people reserved. Okay. It's either this right here or he using that he withholding the womb.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
That's all.
A time appointed, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Right. Oh yeah. So you got anything else on that?
And so, I'm sorry, Brother Leonard, isn't it kind of like that with Judah and Levi, too? With the
What do you mean?
like Judah's sons marry Levi daughters.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's what like I was saying. See this thing said Levirate marriage.
Right. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
It's got Levi in it.
Right. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's tied to Leviticus and Levites.
Right.
Yeah. So when like I said, I mentioned that before, how that it was the whole. I told you about the story with Liam. Liam Bathsheba's daddy. He was a priest, right?
You're right, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And she was so beautiful, and he was a priest, so he constantly prayed all the time that he's praying to the Lord of hosts that she get a king. He said because of her countenance and her beauty and all that, she should. He prayed to the Lord that he sent her a king, and Uriah was following him around and listening in, hiding in the bushes, listening in his prayers. That's how Uriah got Bathsheba. So he had got her in a wicked way. But the whole time her daddy was praying for her to get a king. And Lord of hosts brought it around too. She got David. And this something?
Yes, sir. But like who knows that though? You know,
right. That's what I'm saying. And like this story right here, they didn't use our laws and our statutes against us to denigrate Abraham, talking about he marrying his sister. Like just like they denigrated David, and they denigrated Joseph, saying he was a usurper. And Noah, they said Noah was a drunk. They're using it right here the whole time. Like I was saying, I don't think the sister understood that it wasn't, ain't no mistake. They using the scriptures to denigrate our forefathers, our patriarchs. But like you said, by taking one simple word out of there, one simple understanding, his brother, daughter. See what I'm saying? They took the brother part out.
right. Change the whole understanding.
Yeah, they changed the whole understanding of it. Now it's looking like Abraham is ain't right. He come out the gate defiled. See what I'm saying? And they did that with Noah. And then they didn't deal it with Noah's sons, talking about they all Israelites. Or they all Hebrews. They did all through the scriptures. Ain't that something?
Right, yes, sir. That's something else right there.
Oh yeah, ain't that something? Yeah, you got a scripture you want to shine light on?
I do. Brother Leonard, and this is Leviticus 25 and 5. I mean, my fault. 25 and 8, verses 8 and 9.
Okay.
And it says, and thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee, 7 times 7 years, and the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And shalom, that was Leviticus 25, verses 8 and 9. And I'll keep reading if I need to, but that was just the because I'm asking about the 49 years in
right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that takes you directly to Daniel when he's talking about the 490 years. That's the same thing. 6 years you till the ground. The 7th year you allow the ground to rest. So 7 times 7 is 49. And then you get the Jubilee year. The Jubilee is for, like I said, everything is brought back to where it was at. And then in that year is you allow the ground to rest. You don't plant nothing. You allow it to rest. So in that case right there, 7 times 7 is Jubilee, but what they did it for 490 years, not 49 years. They did it for 490 years. So you get 70 Levitical years out of that, out of the 490, just like you get 7 Sabbath years out of 49 years. So, but that's where that's coming from. They had to go to Babylon because they didn't allow the ground to rest those Sabbath years. They had the law, the Tanakh or the Torah. They had it. They had Hilkiah. Let me see if it's Hilkiah. Yeah, Hilkiah found the Torah down in the bottom of the temple.
Right.
And brought it back up to Josiah. I mean, like I said, he rent his clothes. But that's what you got so many people trying to make JC work in Genesis, in Daniel chapter 9 and verse 25. But when you understand all that, it's no way he don't have nothing to do with it.
And Brother Leonard, so what I'm understanding in the times I've heard you break this down, and what I'm understanding right now is that it's not 500 years, well 490 specifically, but it's not 500 years in the future. This was a past 490 years that our forefathers didn't obey the law, and that's how 70 years were determined for captivity, correct?
Right. Yeah. So let's read that right quick, because yeah. So let's read that. That's in Daniel. Right quick. The book of Daniel, right?
Not yes, sir. Not what 9 to 24.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start at 22. It says, and Gabriel came and he informed me and he talked with me and he said, "Oh Daniel, I am not come forward to give thee skill and understanding." Right? That's what we trying to get. 23. At the beginning of thy supplication, when you start praying, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter. So we're gonna break it down, understand the matter, and consider the vision. Now here you go. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression. So that means if you got to finish the transgression, that's in the past, right?
Yes, sir.
See that? You got to go back, because it's a sin that already happened. So then you say to finish the transgression and to make an end of it. So in order to make an end of that sin, which was they weren't keeping the Levitical year, whatever you call that year, they weren't keeping it. So he says right here to make an end of sin. So what is he talking about? So now they're getting ready. The 70 years is up. That's why Gabriel came. So the 70 years up, they're getting ready to go back to Jerusalem, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
So they're getting ready to go back to Jerusalem. So he says, and to make reconciliation for the iniquity. See that? To make reconciliation for the iniquity. The iniquity is they wasn't keeping that Sabbath year for the land, right? To make iniquity and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and the prophecy and to anoint the most holy. So how they gonna do that? How they gonna seal up the vision? So now he giving them, he taking them out of captivity, go back to Jerusalem. He giving them 490 years in the future to make it up, right? He giving them 490 years to go back and make it up. Let me read it again. And to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up. How you gonna seal it up? He give you the opportunity to go back and keep the laws like you're supposed to, the right way. Okay, and then it says to seal up the vision and the prophecy, and to make an end of the most to anoint the most holy. So they're gonna go back, rebuild the temple, and then they're gonna keep the Sabbath years for 490 years. That's what's gonna anoint the most holy, which is the Holy of Holies, right?
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay, but this is my point right here. What happened when Ezra got there? He didn't They didn't kept. He didn't took. They didn't went to Babylon and they did the 70 years. They back and they got anointed the most holy. But as soon as that remnant got back, when Ezra got there, they already had started intermarrying with the people of the land.
Right. Yes, sir.
So if they was doing that, they weren't trying to bring in the most holy. If they intermarry with the people in the land, they ain't keeping no tobacco. They're not keeping the sabbatical laws. That mean that the law right here, the year of release. So what did he tell Daniel? His indignation it came to a full. You see it?
Right.
Yeah, the foreign they're not keeping. He gave them. They had to go to Babylon to make up for those 70 years they didn't keep. But he giving them an opportunity to come back. Now they got the opportunity to seal it up. They have got an opportunity to do it right.
Right.
And they don't. Soon as they got back there, by the time Ezra get there, they doing the same thing again. And that's why he said his indignation came to a full. That's how we got cast out. They didn't seal it. They didn't come back to make that up, to seal it, to seal the vision, to bring in the most holy, to bring it up, do it right. Okay. Ain't that something?
Right. Yes, sir. That our name just makes sense though too with that breakdown, because again, like I see the times we left the captivities, like for me, my mindset right now, I can't see how I would go against if I actually witness the salvation. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. They came out and picked right back over there and left off there. That's why Ezra tore his garment. Rent his garment because he saw it when he got there. You know, they have the remnant, all the remnant ain't even got back yet. They already intermingling with the people in the land.
Come on.
Oh
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Ain't that something?
That was the same thing. Right. Yes, sir. Yeah, the same thing. I was saying, just last thing Moses was only up there a month, a month and 10 days on Mount Sinai, and they had made that calf or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
Crazy.
And they did the same thing when they come out of Babylon.
Crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you good?
Right, I'm good. Yes, sir.
All right. So I'm gonna say shalom, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow for our reading through the Tanakh night. Okay. Shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel